Welcome to Our Curious Amalgam, the weekly podcast brought to you by the Antitrust Law Section of the American Bar Association. Our Curious Amalgam explores the fascinating and increasingly overlapping world of competition, consumer protection, data protection, and privacy law. Each week, we bring you leading global experts on the most compelling issues of the day. Enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to Our Curious Amalgam. I'm Alicia Downey, and the title of today's episode is What's Happening in Italy and Greece? Catching up with international enforcers at the 2025 Spring Meeting. The Antitrust Law Section's annual Spring Meeting in Washington, D.C. is the premier opportunity for practitioners, government enforcers, economists, and in-house counsel from all around the world to exchange ideas about competition, consumer protection, and data privacy law and policy. With almost 4,000 registrants from 70 countries, the 2025 Spring Meeting was truly global. While on site at the meeting, the Our Curious Amalgam team recorded interviews with senior competition agency enforcers from a variety of jurisdictions. In the first segment of this episode, Jaclyn Phillips interviews Saverio Valentino, a commissioner on the board of the Italian Competition Authority. Next is a conversation between Panos Dimitrellos and Hara Nikolopoulou, the vice president of the Hellenic Competition Commission. You'll hear what's been happening in their respective agencies, as well as a little bit about what makes them happy outside of competition law, such as the fact that Saverio Valentino is a big fan of rock music. Enjoy the discussions.
Welcome to Our Curious Amalgam. I'm Jaclyn Phillips, and we are here today at the ABA Spring Meeting talking with Saverio Valentino, board member of the Italian Antitrust Authority. Before being appointed as a board member, Saverio advised on issues under European and Italian antitrust and merger control law. Welcome to Our Curious Amalgam, Saverio.
Thank you, Jaclyn.
We're very excited to talk to you today. And before we really get into the meat of our discussion, I want to let our listeners know a little bit more about how the Italian Competition Authority is structured and what their goals are. So we know that it includes competition, consumer protection, and conflicts of interest. How is the Competition Authority organized? What should our listeners know about how it functions before we dive into the substance?
Of course, the Competition Authorities is led by a board of 3 members. We have a president and then 2 members. I'm the junior member because I was appointed in June of 2023. And then there is Professor Jossa, who was appointed approximately 1.5 years before me. And the president has been there for almost 6 years. So our mandate lasts 7 years and it cannot be renewed. This is in order to guarantee our full independence from the executive power, so from the government and the parliament, and we cannot be removed. We cannot be removed for any reason. I know that this is an issue nowadays here in the U.S., but we cannot be. No, we can be removed if we commit some crimes, of course. Right. But otherwise, we cannot be removed and we cannot be renewed. So we have no reason to try to please the government or the parliament in order to get a new appointment.
Thank you. Great context, and having you here kind of fresh into your term, I'm sure you have a lot of views on goals and the future. So let's get into it. Looking at the past year, what are your agency's 3 most significant accomplishments or initiatives that it took up?
As you said, our core business does not only include antitrust, it also includes consumer protection, which is a very important part of our tasks. And we have carried out, we closed in the last couple of years several investigations in antitrust, 35 investigations, including abuse of dominance, cartels, and also some in-depth investigations into mergers. In consumer protection, we do many more cases. So we have closed over 150 investigations in the last couple of years. I would say that it is also very important for the Italian authority. Its activity is a advocacy activity because we can present opinions to the government, parliaments, and even local entities in order to promote competition. We have a good percentage of our opinions that are followed by either the central or the local authorities, and this is a very important accomplishment. And I would like to mention the fact that we also asked recently the Parliament and the government to receive new powers, and the Parliament and government have been listening to our requests. In particular, I would like to mention two new powers. One important power is the possibility to require the notification of transactions that do not meet the thresholds for a compulsory notification. This is a very important issue in Europe. You may be aware of the Lumina Grail case. The European Commission followed the path to reinterpret an existing provision of the EU Merger Control Regulation, Article 22, in order to ask member states to refer transactions to the Commission, so that the transactions that do not meet their thresholds, but they are maybe problematic, so that the Commission could review it. Unfortunately, the European Court of Justice did not agree with this interpretation of EU law, and in the Lumina Grail case decided that the Commission could not accept the referral of these mergers. By contrast, we did not reinterpret our law, but we have a new law that gives us the power to call in transactions that meet certain criteria. Basically, we have they must have the parties of a transaction must have a turnover above certain thresholds. The transaction must not have closed more than 6 months ago, and the transaction may create a concrete risk for competition. At least prima facie, there must be an assessment of this. We have already exercised our powers under with this legislation. We have called in 9 transactions. Only one of those was abandoned after we called it in, and the others we cleared them. 2 of them with remedies, and 1 we referred it to the European Commission. It's a transaction involving NVIDIA, the largest manufacturer of graphical processing units. So a very important component in the AI world. We referred it to the European Commission that cleared the transaction. Nevertheless, NVIDIA decided to appeal the decision of the Commission to accept our referral to of this below threshold transaction. We are pleased of this appeal, because of this will further clarify the framework, the context in which we will operate in the coming years. Of course, it will take a while before we get to a judgment, but it is going to be a very interesting proceedings, and we will be involved also in these proceedings before the European courts. A last thing to mention, we received also the possibility to impose behavioral and structural remedies following a market investigation. The Italian authority has carried out 55, I think, sector inquiries, market studies concerning a number of sectors of the economy since its creation in 1990. We are not a very young authority, but with respect to the American ones, we are quite young. 55 is a good number, but the outcome of this market study could only be either finding some infringement and therefore opening an investigation into the infringement of competition law and abuse of dominance or cartel, or more frequently was to just send an opinion to the parliament and government in order to address some specific issues that we thought that could be improved to promote competition. Nowadays, we have instead the power to directly impose certain remedies, certain measures. Of course, in order to protect the rights of defense, we will give ample opportunities to all the parties that are potentially affected by these measures to express their views. We just received this power about a little bit more than a year ago. We started 2 market investigations, but we are far from the conclusion, and so it's difficult to say when we will actually apply this new power. But it's important to have it in our toolkit in order to complete our possibilities to intervene when there is some failure in the proper working of the market, even if there are no anti-competitive behavior.
So it sounds like there's been a lot of significant kind of structural changes to the way and the tools that the authority has to implement its mandate. And there's a lot to look for in the future as we see this go through the courts and as you all figure out how this is going to work in practice.
Absolutely. The coming years are going to be extremely interesting. I have to say that my first 2 years have already been extremely interesting. I'm coming from private practice and seeing from another perspective all the cases. It's really a changing experience, and I'm very, very excited and very happy about the work that I'm doing. But I'm sure that in the coming years we can do even more.
So that is a great lead into the next question. The agency is doing a lot. It's working to add to those tools in its toolbox. So now that it's getting those and building on its prior work, what are the top current enforcement priorities as we look in the present and towards the future?
Our top priority, I think, it has been the same since the beginning of the working of the authority, since the creation of the authority, and it's fighting cartels. In order to fight cartel, we have a new tool which is proving to be quite useful, and it's a whistleblower platform. So we have a possibility to have discussions with whistleblowers, people within companies or some clients that are not happy, but they fear retaliation, and we guarantee the full anonymity of these people. We don't even know who are those people, because thanks to some technical devices, all the communications are encrypted, so we can have discussions with these anonymous complainants. And thanks to those, we have started 4 cartel investigations. So we carried out dawn raids within the companies. These 4 investigations are still ongoing. For some of them, and we found hard evidence of the existence of a cartel. Another a very important result of this whistleblower platform, since probably companies fear that certain employees or customers or suppliers may lodge a complaint through the whistleblower platform, we have had recently a leniency application, actually 2 leniency applications. The leniency has been a tool within the toolbox of the authority for many years, but in the last few years it was not used that much. Mm-hmm. So it is good that the companies are coming to the authority to tell us whether there was some cartel activity going on. Of course, the first arriving can receive immunity, and so this is it's a significant incentive to present an application. So I think fighting cartel is definitely our top priority. Another priority is guaranteeing the liberalizations that took place in certain markets. I can make you an example because it's a very recent investigation that was launched by the Italian authority, and it concerns the high-speed railway market. Usually, historically, we had only one player within Italy. Then there was a liberalization, and so a second player entered the market, and this benefited enormously the market because the trains became much better than before, prices went down, and the demand for high-speed train services went up significantly. Recently, a French operator, SNCF, lodged a complaint because they were trying to enter the market as a third player. We thought that the incumbent operator, which has two separate companies, one operating the train service, the high-speed train service, and the other instead is a sort of regulator, but they are still part of the same company, and the company was a regulator. We believed that they were trying to put some obstacles to the entry of this new player. So we decided to look into that more thoroughly. We carried out down raids just a couple of weeks ago, so it's a very recent initiative. We hope that this could favor the entrance of a new player in the market. We believe that there is room for a new player in the market, and this will benefit consumers with lower prices and better services.
Thank you. It sounds like the authority has made a lot of progress in progressing its mission and adding to its ability to investigate and impose remedies. What are some challenges, though, that the agency is facing in advancing its mission?
I believe a challenge, I don't know if we can call it a challenge, but derives from the Digital Markets Act. This is a regulation established at the European level in order to regulate ex ante the conduct of certain very large operators named gatekeepers. And these gatekeepers must follow some precise sets of rules that are based on the previous antitrust enforcement of the European Commission and of the various European national competition authorities. So there is nothing new. The difference is that before the Digital Markets Act, there was an intervention exposed by the authorities, either the Commission or the national authorities, to find infringement and sanction it. Instead, nowadays there are certain conduct that are already well defined, and the keepers must respect them. The Italian authorities has investigated these large big tech companies for many years, well before my arrival at the authority. Actually, I even worked for some of those big tech companies in my previous life. Now it is more difficult to intervene. Our work cannot overlap with the work that the Commission is already doing within the Digital Markets Act. I believe that the DMA is an excellent piece of legislation, but still it restricts our scope of work in a way. However, there are still new companies coming out in the digital world, entering the market, and these companies, of course, are not subject to the DMA unless they fulfill their criteria. But it takes 3 years in order to be large enough to be appointed, to be nominated as gatekeeper. For instance, because of the pandemic, Booking was appointed as a gatekeeper just last year. But before the appointment of Booking as a gatekeeper, we started an investigation into Booking for certain practice that we thought could amount to an abuse of dominance, and we ended this investigation with some commitments offered by Booking, commitments that are in a way they are aligned to to the duties that they have under the DMA. So we anticipated the effects of the DMA thanks to our investigation with respect to booking. But there will be other companies. These markets are in constant evolution, and therefore there are new companies that are developing new digital services. So working in the digital environment is definitely a challenge. There can be new companies, or there can be new types of conduct that are not contemplated within the DMA, but are still abusive. There still results in an abuse of dominance or in some other unlawful practice, and therefore we have some scope for intervention.
Thanks for that very interesting perspective on the overlap of the DMA and investigation at the local level. I don't think that's something that, looking at from the outside would be intuitive, that it's restrictive in some ways, but it's very interesting to hear about that overlap.
This is a very typical European issue.
Yeah,
the overlap of our work with the work of the European Commission. Yeah. There is a constant cooperation between our institutions. So I'm not expressing any complaint whatsoever.
Yeah, no. And my comment was spoken like a true American, I guess.
but you also have state competition authorities.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we've gotten a great view into what the Italian Antitrust Authority is up to and looking at towards the future. So before we let you go, we want to learn a little bit more about you, aside from your role as a board member. First, since we're sitting here at spring meeting, anything you're particularly excited about? Any panels you're really looking forward to?
I'm definitely looking forward to the Enforcer panel, which takes place on Friday. Unfortunately, I heard that there won't be anybody from the FTC and the DOJ, but still, it is going to be a very interesting panel. I was here last year, and it was very interesting to listen to the previous commissioner of the European Commission, Margaret Vestager, to Lina Khan, to Jonathan Cantor. It was a very, very interesting panel. Another panel that I would like to listen to is a panel concerning the below threshold mergers, because this is a field where that I, as I told you, put a lot of interest during my almost 2 years, and therefore I will definitely be there.
Yeah, absolutely. That Enforcers Roundtable is always a popular one, and I'm sure it will be this year as well. And finally, before we let you go, tell us a little bit about you. Do you have any interesting hobbies or accomplishments you're proud of outside of antitrust law?
I would say, two main hobbies. I'm very much into soccer. I have a favorite soccer team, Lazio, and I go to all its matches in Rome, or even travel abroad sometimes to watch its matches. And I'm also into rock music. I love going to concerts, and also travel abroad. This summer I'm going to go to Madrid to watch AC/DC for the first time in my life. So it's I'm very thrilled about for this concert. I think it's one of the last chances to listen to them, because the singer is close to 80. I think he's 78. So.
Very fun. Well, I hope you have a wonderful time in Madrid and that your team does well. And thank you very much for participating today and coming on Our Curious Amalgam.
Thank you very much, Jaclyn.
Welcome to A Curious Amalgam. I'm Panos Dimitrellos, and today we have a special guest joining us from Greece. We're speaking with Hara Nikolopoulou, Vice President of the Greek Competition Commission, about the agency's recent accomplishments, its top enforcement priorities, challenges that they face in their mission. We'll also hear a little about her interests outside competition law. Hara, welcome to A Curious Amalgam.
Ευχαριστώ για την πρόσκληση. Χαρά μου να είμαι εδώ.
Oh, what does it mean?
That means thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, here's some Greek lesson for us. Let's start from, what are your agency's most significant accomplishments or initiatives?
Okay, thank you. Well, as you said, I'm the Vice President of the Hellenic Competition Commission. I'm a lawyer, but I do have a master's degree in economics. And after several years in private practice in Brussels and in Athens, I joined the Commission as a case handler in the beginning, and I've been the Vice President for almost 3 years now. I'll get into the challenges and our priorities, but I think that it needs to be said at a time when competition law and policy faces so many challenges that it is competition that drives innovation, boosts productivity and supports wage growth, all while keeping prices in check and offering consumers more choice. I believe we are for market power what democracy is for political power. So we need to keep on doing what we have been entrusted to do as enforcers of competition law and shapers of competition policy. So what we have been doing at the Hellenic Competition Commission lately, our focus remains on enforcement. We have important cartel cases. We had a major case involving banks, the 4 major banks in Greece, on fees that they set and on information exchange. So apart from the 42 million euro fine, a remedial measure was also imposed on the maximum amount of the fee for certain services. We had a major cartel case in public procurement for various companies were involved in bid rigging for the national cadastre. Actually, this case had it all. It had a leniency application, a settlement, and it's also a hybrid case since many of the parties chose not to settle, and we will have hearings within the year for those parties that did not settle. Bid rigging is a priority for the Hellenic Competition Commission and public procurement in general. We have, I think, a very interesting guide in English on our website. It is a big part of our advocacy effort. We're involved in a multi-country project with OECD on bid rigging and trying to bring in officials from the contracting authority as well as judges and the wider public to understand why this is very important, why we need to fight it. Bid rigging is also part of our efforts when it comes to investigation and enforcement. We had our largest ever dawn raid on bid rigging last year in information communication technology and various other smaller ones. Now, speaking of dawn raids are a big part of our investigative measures. We raided more than 50 companies last year, and we have fines for obstruction of dawn raids on natural persons and on legal persons that come to several million euros. These dawn raid cases lead also to a lot of vertical cases on RPM, on platform bans for sectors ranging from baby feed products to cosmetics to home appliances to food. And when we decide on these cases and where we're going to go, we always need to have a careful balance between what is relevant for the citizens and keeping our priorities. And I think one example of this is a recent dawn raid that we did in the maritime transport sector. So on one hand, we did a dawn raid in companies operating in a very small and very cheap ticketed line connecting the port of Piraeus with the opposite island of Salamina. This has the largest volume of traffic in the whole of Greece. It's not at all tourists, it just serves commuters. So we had a dawn raid there, and recently we had a very large dawn raid in all the major companies active in the maritime transport sector, connecting all the islands with the mainland and the islands between them, which are tourist lines, basically the bloodline of connection in Greece and also of our economy, given the importance of tourism. At the same time, I think the last couple of years we've been quite active in using our softer tools, such as sector inquiries, mapping, to investigate various markets. We have investigated the food value chain. So we had one sector inquiry on animal feeds, which was completed. We have another one which will be completed in the following months on veterinary medicinal products. This shows a lot about how the price that we see at the shelf is actually created and what factors contribute to it. But we also have other sector inquiries and mapping in food and other sectors as well. We have an ongoing sector inquiry that we expect to be completed in the following months on interest rates. We saw that there is a large gap between interest rates of the ECB and national interest rates, and a lack of pass-through of any increases in deposit interest rates, whereas decreases are passed on right away. We also had hearings on a large unilateral case in the pharmaceuticals. This involved denigration and also naked restrictions. We expect to have a decision on this later this year.
Great. It's great to hear about Competition Commission with so many accomplishments or initiatives. My next question would be, what do you see in the future for the Commission?
Well, I'll speak more about our overall strategy. So I think it's very important to continue to focus on enforcement, continue, of course, our investigation, to try to limit the age of pending cases. We've done a lot of work on this in the last few years, and I think we're a lot better now than we were 5 years ago. But this is an ongoing effort. We also need to streamline merger control so that we can swiftly complete clearance of cases that do not raise issues and focus on those M&A transactions that may raise concerns. We're looking into a need to increase notification thresholds and introduce call-in provisions. We need to invest more in capacity building. So this means investing more in people, hiring more people. We'll probably have a procurement for 50 economists, lawyers, and data scientists this year. This will be very important for the Commission. And this will not only lead to more enforcement and to better decisions, but will increase the deterrent effect of our work. We need to continue to invest in technology. We are using many AI tools, but we can do a lot more. I think that as individuals and as professionals, we need to overcome our reluctance to use AI tools. Sometimes we feel like we're cheating a little bit and we're not doing our job if we use AI. I think we need to get over this and incorporate it in everyday work, from summaries to translation, and of course to the most important help that AI can offer us, in my view, which is reviewing documents. We cannot possibly look at documents on our own without AI help. Continue our focus on enforcement, invest in capacity building, also invest in advocacy, continue to explain to people what we do, why it is important, that we have legal procedures that take time. Also to explain that market outcomes may depend on consumer behavior. Our investigation sometimes shows that there are no issues in market structure or anti-competitive market behavior, but consumers loyally choose the most expensive product. Maybe this is because of information asymmetries. Maybe there's a decision fatigue. Maybe there are cognitive biases. We should work on this. Although we are not a consumer protection authority, we can work with consumer organizations to raise awareness and to share knowledge and to put behavioral economics more into our investigations. So, investing in advocacy in this way. I think it's also quite important to invest in our international presence. Events such as this, our presence in international fora, is very important for knowledge sharing and for making our work better. We work very closely with our peers at the ECN network, of course, but also at the OECD, of which I'm a member of the Bureau, the International Competition Network, and UNCTAD. We try to be there to learn and to offer our own experience.
That's great to hear. Just on your point about AI, I sometimes find that it's even more work using AI rather than doing it yourself, given how much fact-checking you need to do later. You need to get all your facts correct. So sometimes it's not at all cheating. It's maybe some more work. And what would you say is the biggest challenge your agency faces in advancing its mission?
As most agencies, I think we are understaffed. So one of the largest challenges is trying to meet with the expectations, but also do so with the very little resources that we have. I think that another challenge right now is how open we are to discussion with other fields of law. Competition law has shown its interdisciplinarity for many years now. We lawyers, it's a given that they work very closely with economists and with data scientists. I think that maybe now we should open the discussion with our colleagues working on trade policy, on fiscal policy, on industrial policy. And how do we do this? I think that we should be a big part of the design of economic policies to make sure that we do not correct one market failure and come up with another.
This makes sense. And on a more personal note, do you have any interesting hobbies or accomplishments outside of competition law?
Well, I'm a mother of two demanding teenagers and an even more demanding golden retriever. But being Greek, I do enjoy everything that has to do with sun and sea. And I'm determined to become a good tennis player, although I think I'm very, very far away from it.
Yeah, and Greece already has a good tennis player.
That's true.
Good luck to Stefan is the next tournament.
I'm very far away from that.
Okay, so Hara, it was great to see you at this year's spring meeting. We wish you the best. We wish the Greek Competition Commission the best. Yeah, it was great to see you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Our Curious Amalgam, a competition, consumer protection, data protection, and privacy law podcast. It is produced and shared around the globe by ABA's Antitrust Law Section. The opinions expressed by the participants in this podcast are their own and do not necessarily represent their employer or other organizations. If you like what you heard or would like to become a member of the American Bar Association, please check out what the Antitrust section has to offer at ambar.org/antitrust. You can learn more about our podcast at ourcuriousamalgam.com. If you have comments, suggestions, or podcast ideas, please reach out to us at podcast@ourcuriousamalgam.com. Until next time, thank you for listening.